Welcome back. One of the most amazing books I've read is this book titled Akachukwu. Oh my goodness, this book is really good. Now, the author of this book, I simply like to call him Chux. He's been on this show before. He watched Roots when he was young. Now, if you remember, Roots was a hit TV show in the 1980s. Roots told the story of Kunta Kinte, the story of slave trade. Now, one of the things that we have failed to do in Nigeria is to tell the slave trade story from the Nigerian perspective. Did you know that the slave trade history of Nigeria is really gruesome? Really, really gruesome. Now, the greatest number of slaves taken away from the continent of Africa were taken from this place that we now call today Nigeria. Of course, it wasn't called Nigeria hundreds of years ago. Now, the author of Akachukwu watched Roots when he was young and decided to tell the slave trade story from a Nigerian perspective. And hence came this book titled Akachukwu. It's a very thick book. You have to be determined to finish it. But the good thing is that it's exciting. So the more you open the pages, the more you want to open the next page and the next page and the next page until you are done with it. But Chux decided, look, for the sake of those who don't want to read big books, let me turn this into a trilogy of, small books. So here we are. The big Akachukwu, the thick Akachukwu is now 3 in 1. Fantastic, amazing. It's amazing what you can do with an idea. If you write a book, it can be turned into a miniseries, it can be turned into a TV program, it can be turned into a movie, a documentary, and all sorts of things. But Chux was with us, and he read from that book, or rather, this book, titled Akachukwu. Enjoy this.
Hi there. My name is Chux Onyenyeonwu. I'm a writer, an author, and a designer of landscape. I am the author of Akachukwu, a book that records the saga of an African family that was dispersed during the slave trade. It tells the story of the Africans in diaspora as well as those who were left behind in Africa. And today, put this together so that people will know that in everything there is the hand of God. That is why it's Akachukwu, the hand of God. Today I'll be reading from chapter number 4, which is telling us what was happening in Africa before the slave trade even came. Chapter 4. It had been exactly 3 moons since Onyenyeonwu was buried. The day had started bright, dry, and dusty. A thick clay film covered everything in the open, from rooftops to treetops, giving it a strange alien ambience. The few grassy paths that still displayed some form of miserable existence were masterly crafted in deep bronze-brown pastel, a far cry from their natural, luxurious, vibrant green complexion. Indeed, the dry season had overstayed its welcome. Anxiety-ridden faces looked to the heavens for the slightest hint of rain, but no dice. The heavens were not yielding. As the morning wore on, it became evidently clear that it was going to be yet another stifling, steamy day. Then, all of a sudden, an unsettling calm enveloped the land. For a very brief moment, it was like all stood still. Even the birds held their breath and went quiet. The wind paused in its gentle stride, and the trees complied by standing still. Dark, ominous clouds floated hastily from opposing directions and converged over Ohafia, and the mid-morning sun disappeared from sight. Within the moment, the animals and birds with a keen sixth sense would seek refuge from the brewing storm. The first massive drops of rain started splashing down. What a relief! The first drops of rain quickly disappeared to placate the dry parched Mother Earth. It was when the earth was saturated enough, the rain collected into little puddles that trickled into little streams that raised into miniature tributaries and rivers that flooded the land. Ofia's first downpour of the rainy season came down with a fury and lasted all through the morning unto noon. And all of Ofia safely stayed indoors to wait out the storm. And just as it suddenly started, it stopped abruptly. The volatile sun this time shamefacedly kept its distance. The downpour had effectively cleaned up the dust-laden atmosphere and environment, and also tempered the humid heat. As Aka stepped out from his mother's hut, he could smell the crispy clean air and savour his refreshing vigor as he filled his lungs. He dragged his father's favorite wooden reclining chair from its usual position under the orange tree into the open air. He swiped the hard wooden stems and twine contraption with the tail, whose primary assignment is to deal with flies. He made himself comfortable and laid back, going into the ocean-wide, clear blue sky. A flock of leke-leke, migratory white geese, flying in their typical V formation, flew directly overhead. He involuntarily scanned his fingernails to see the white streaks that magically come with these mythical birds. His mind wandered to folklores of old that tell of distant lands and the mighty oceans that these mythical migratory birds traverse religiously every year. He envied their freedom and strength, or is it their destiny of daring adventures? If only they could speak, he would want to hear of the mortals that inhabit these distant lands. He closed his eyes to fully relish this singular moment of solace since the demise of his father. The rains were indeed symbolic. He thought to himself, high time they washed away all the pain and tears for Onyenyeonwu. He had spent the entire morning before and during the rain to discuss with his mother, who was scheduled to round up today the stipulated traditional mourning period for her husband. They had broached many subjects, especially that of his marriage, which he had reassured her that something was in the offing. They did not even notice that the rain had stopped until Adora came over to help her friend through the minor ritual of the mourning. She must have all their hair on her body clean shaven, and then took her first official bath since she started mourning over her husband. The coarse, dark mourning regalia she had worn were to be burnt to signify that she was now free to return to the normal swing of life. Marry again if she so desired, and thereafter she was expected to visit friends and family to appreciate them for their support during the time of despair, and it was their customary visitation she had embarked with her bosom friend that afternoon. The events of the past 3 months flooded back. The news of Onyenyeonwu's demise had spread through Ofia as a wildfire at the end of Harmattan season. And just as Agbala had foretold, Onyenyeonwu in death received more accolades and respect than in all his lifetime. Ofia had never given such honor and privilege to any man considered to be a mystery stranger.
This is where we have to draw curtains on the show today. As always, we'll be very delighted to get your feedback through any of our social media platforms displayed on your screen. We're always happy to hear from you and always delighted to respond to any inquiry that you might have. My name is Olakunle Kasumo. Remember, one great book can change your life. Bye-bye.